time. It's our time, my friends. Time for millions of maturepreneurs, 55 plus, who are hashtag not done by a long shot, to revolutionize how we lead, do business, and innovate our world. I'm your host, Jeanette Anderson, and welcome to my conversations with fascinating people who would rather inspire than retire. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Maturepreneur podcast. Today, I am with the fabulous Sara Nakamura. I knew I was going to stumble over it. Sara Nakamura, who's joining us from Vegas, and we're going to be talking about AI is fast. Your nervous system needs to be faster. How adaptive intelligence helps leaders stay calm, clear, and connected in times of change. So, if you are new to the podcast, what you may not know is that my background is 40 years of business startup and turnaround. So helping entrepreneurs with what I call the external game of business, and about 38 years of personal growth facilitation and teaching, coaching, certification programs. So my specialty is helping you get the 4 inches between your ears working so the business can work. I think business is an internal and an external game. And that's why on our podcast, we have experts in mastering the internal, whether that's mindset or physiology, our bodies, or whatever that may be, and the external, some of the practical, tactical things like branding and how to create a business structure and so on. So Sara is here today to talk to us about how many busy professionals feel really successful in their lives and their businesses, but overwhelmed internally. So we're going to talk about adaptive intelligence and the human skill of how to read signals, regulate our pressure, and respond with clarity instead of reactivity. So I know that's a skill that everybody can use. So listen up, grab a pen and paper, put your feet up, and let's go. Hi, Sara. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Jeanette, so much for having me, but also having this conversation, especially in this day and age. It's really appreciated. And hopefully this helps everybody that's listening and watching out there.
Awesome. Love it. So I'm going to tell you the official word about Sara, of course, the official intro, and then we're going to ask her to tell us something about her that you would never guess by just looking at her, going to her website. So please welcome Sara Nakamura, speaker, author, and adaptive intelligence guide. Sara teaches leaders how to stay grounded, clear, and influential when pressure is high and change is constant. Her work bridges neuroscience, body awareness, and modern leadership, helping professionals lead from presence instead of pressure. So I love that topic. And by the way, those of you who are listening who perhaps are in transition or might be starting a business or are not sure what's next for you, this topic is still for you, even if you don't identify as a quote unquote leader right now, because frankly, you are. You lead in your family, you lead in your community, you lead in all sorts of different places and ways. So, and I guarantee you got stress. So this will help you with that. And with the whole conversation around how do we stay adaptive in a time of change. And all of you listening to this are living in a time of tremendous change. So this episode is for you. So I'm glad that you're here, Sara. I'm glad that you've done this work. Tell me something about you that people wouldn't guess about you, might even surprise them. Maybe your friends don't even know. What don't we know about you?
What some people don't know about me, although I have a love for animals, and you and I were just talking about that. However, I used to own a dog running company. Oh. It was called Rupo, Run Your Paws Off. And it was partially to help, busy professionals that needed their dogs to be walked here in Vegas. But also my partner and I were training for half marathons. And so it got us running, it got us out there, it helped the animals. And it was just such a win-win all over the place with it. And it was so much fun, except for in the 115 degree temperatures here.
God, I can't even imagine. That's a brilliant way to combine your passion with a profitable business. And there you go, right off the bat, folks. There's an interesting way for you to think about what is something that you want to accomplish, a personal goal, like perhaps running a marathon. How can you bring others along with you in that journey in a way that compensates you, like taking dogs for a run instead of just a walk? Do it in a way that's sustainable, not 115-degree heat. So that's brilliant. Okay, and did you do those marathons? Is that something that you completed?
So well, and it was actually my partner's idea, my business partner's idea to do. And I wasn't quite a runner at that time.
Yep.
I was about a 2-mile person. And then I eventually ended up training for a half marathon, and I did several along the way. So yes.
That's amazing. And a half marathon is 13 miles?
13.1, yes. That point one's important.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, yeah, I might be able to do the 0.1, maybe not, but definitely not 2 and definitely not 13. So congratulations on that. And when did you start that? When did you start to decide, okay, I'm going to run the marathon? How old were you?
Oh gosh, it was my late 30s.
Okay, awesome. And was there something that prompted that made you decide that, okay, I think I'll do this thing, besides your partner saying that she, whatever, wanted to do it?
Well, it's interesting because she and I did some mentorship programs together. And she knew I was athletic. I was getting into personal training at the time, but I was kind of new to it. And she's like, Sarah's in shape, which I kind of was at the time. And I was going through a lot of hardships in my personal life, which really helped me get through, all of the struggles that I was going through, helped me with my health, just that side of, the entire piece of the pie that we don't always think about. So yeah, it did help.
Good. That's awesome. Congratulations on setting the goal and following through and doing what it took and making money while you were doing that. That's brilliant. I love that. I love the notion of the both and. I can have my dream and make money from it. Most people think I can do either or, and I love the and. I'm a stand for and. It's even the first part of my name, last name. Okay, so let's talk about adaptive intelligence. So first of all, tell me, what is that?
It's exactly what it sounds like. We are in the age of AI, and this artificial intelligence just kind of creeps across our entire world, doesn't it? Not just about OpenAI or how we use ChatGPT, but also the artificial part of social media and kind of how we converse with each other kind of on a surface level. So I wanted to kind of move away from the artificial part of it, even though it's very prominent in what we do. And I love some of those tools, and it's part of what I do. But here's the thing, is that what we used to do isn't what we do now, is it? And it's also not going to take us into the future. So what I figured is we have to adapt. We have to adapt to what's going on today so that we don't lose out, so we don't become irrelevant. And so when I combined adaptiveness, not just regular artificial intelligence, but adaptive, so it incorporates sensory intelligence, emotional intelligence, and combining those two things into the adaptive intelligence combined with momentum. So I call it AIM, adaptive intelligence momentum, because like you were talking about earlier with purpose, which I've seen you say a few times now, which is amazing. But, that beautiful bridge between that healing of the past and longing for that future. And that serves us for today. And that really sets that wonderful conversation that we have today. And it complements what Simon Sinek says about why. And it reminds us that like that spark that gets us out of bed. And I know you're great at this, but that spark that gets us out of bed is that continuum. And it's that foundation that helps us to, the momentum that turns the page into what we do today. And that's why I call it the other AI, adaptive intelligence.
Awesome. Okay. Well, just in case you haven't been with me before, what Sarah's referring to is my perspective is that our purpose or our why is not what we do. It's why we do what we do. And it's something, I think it's a thread that weaves through the tapestry of our whole life. And I define it as what we are healing from the past and what we long for the future for ourselves and others. And when we find that sweet spot of why we do what we do, we live into it in different ways and express it. I call that our stand throughout our life. Then it really, like you said, gets us out of bed in the morning, guides our strategic directions, helps us differentiate in the market. There's a bunch of different things it does for us, and is not what we do. So much of our culture is about, our value comes from what we do, or maybe how we do what we do. And I think that that's why so many people as they age, or at various points in our lives, really feel adrift when they don't do what they used to do. When, if we get our identity from our actions or our jobs, then when we don't have that anymore, who are we? And a lot of people really struggle with that. So speaking of purpose, tell me about you. What is your purpose in the world?
Well, as you can see, I love life. There's so much joy that's around us. And sometimes it doesn't always happen though. I'm known for Sarah Smiles. Yeah. And if you remember the song by Hall & Oates, actually, one of them did sing that song to me one time, which was a beautiful thing to do. And, one of the beautiful things about living in Las Vegas, we have so many people that come into town, and I was fortunate enough to meet him, and he serenaded me with Sarah Smiles. So cool. I love that aspect of it. And again, we can find beauty and joy in so many things that we do. But there was also a time in my life where I kind of alluded to it, is that I lost hope. I was having such a difficult time in my life that I was climbing the corporate ladder, and I was doing all the things. I was checking off the boxes that we're supposed to. Good career, good relationships. I was just, in that good spot. Mm-hmm. But what happened was burnout kicked in, overwhelm, exhaustion, all of the things that my colleagues were doing too, but it just hit me really hard. And I didn't realize it wasn't normal. Mm. It was normal in the context that I was working in. And I'm sure a lot of us have experienced that in our careers, especially as women who have had a long career. Mm-hmm. And I suffered in silence. Mm-hmm. I just choked it down. And when I choked it down, it became an autoimmune issue. Mm-hmm. And I had gastric issues. I had digestive issues. I actually got the disorder that Michael Jackson has, vitiligo. Mm-hmm. So when people would tell me I was so sensitive, so thin-skinned, Sarah, that my skin actually started changing color. Mm-hmm. And because I suffered in silence for so long, I didn't want anyone else to have to. Mm-hmm. And so that became the thread of my why. And I look back at my life and I go, I was choking down my words for so long. I no longer want to suffer in silence. I no longer want to see anyone else around me suffer also. So that's why I do what I do.
Love that. And I suspect it's probably precedes even your corporate life, that there was back when you were a child, there was a lot of light that wanted to come out of you, and there was some version of squishing that, you're to be seen, not heard, or, some version of the messages we get as children that has us not be fully self-expressed. And I really appreciate that you're that clear about, I've suffered and I don't want others to suffer. And so I want some practical support for people to be able to shift out of that and be heard. So that created you moving out of corporate and into your own business. Is that right? How did you make that transition?
Yes. So I'm standing by your and in this. I love this part of it because I went into the wellness field after I had, that breakdown on the corporate side and food and beverage management. So 24/7 town that I live in, Las Vegas. And I went into the most relaxing field I could think of. I went into massage therapy. Okay. I wanted to help. I wanted to help others, but I needed to help myself.
Yeah.
And so through body work, through the internal game, I started living differently and seeing health in a different perspective. And so what I did with that was I started consulting in other arenas while I was still massaging. I ended up being in a 5-star resort for massage therapy, and I still love it to this day. So I have that practice, and then I have my personal practice where I help people to adapt to the everyday change. But how that came about is because one of my colleagues during the pandemic lost her purpose, lost her why, lost hope. And unfortunately, that was a difficult time for all of us. And she ended up completing suicide. She left 3 children behind. And during that time, we couldn't have physical touch. It was a difficult time to connect to others, which I wanted to have some kind of code to connect to other people. So I took 2-minute techniques that I used in every day in massage services or the mental game that I help with my private clients with. And I created my book, Stressed Out and Don't Know What to Do. And it's the 2-minute techniques to stress less when you're exhausted, overwhelmed, and burnt out. And some of these techniques help so many people over the last few years. And putting those things together creates that and. I get to help people, in one practice and help them in the other practice and creating that and together that you talked about.
I love that. Okay, well, before we shift to adaptive intelligence and getting some of these stress techniques, because we might as well while we're talking about that, but in terms of your business transition, what was one of the biggest challenges for you to go from being an employee to being an entrepreneur?
The box. We get stuck in this little box, whether it be the corporate world, being an employee, being a manager. And that's why I use the word leadership that we talked about earlier. You can be a leader in any aspect, leader of self, a leader of home, a leader of family. You can lead in your career. You can lead in any of these areas of your life. And because of that box, you have to play within certain rules and regulations. And although I love structure, because I kind of, I'm a little neurospicy sometimes.
Neurospicy. I love it.
I love that. But also, the ceiling has been broken for women entrepreneurs, especially as we get older and we're mature because we have that wisdom that we've learned over the years of things that worked, things that didn't work, and just how we transition that and how we adapt to what we're doing right now.
And so for you, what was the biggest challenge in terms of that transition for you? What was the difference between an entrepreneur mindset and an employee mindset?
Ooh, that is a really good one because that shift, as you know, can be so difficult. You have to have that internal momentum of you wear so many hats.
Yeah.
Working in the corporate arena, especially here in Las Vegas, I've worked for several different corporations. And I'll go back to when I was a manager. When I was a manager, although I was doing computer programming, I was managing and leading a team, I was doing scheduling and all of those different things, I still had someone else that did payroll. I still had someone else that did marketing, someone else that brought in our clients and our guests, someone that cleaned the rooms, somebody that refilled the jackpot slot machines and all of those different things. That's the difference of being an entrepreneur. You have to wear these different hats.
Yeah.
And when you go, wait a second, that's not what I want to do. You kind of have this shift and go, okay, how do I delegate? Okay, now put that delegation hat on. How do I do the things that I don't really want to do and still, find the time and create the energy for it?
Right. And the skills, in a lot of cases, we don't have skills like how to sell and market ourselves when we come into running a business. And if we don't learn those skills, then the business doesn't survive. What was the most fun part of going from being an employee to being an entrepreneur for you?
Oh, the fun part. I love to connect to people in whatever realm that we can connect on. So, when we're in a, I'll just call it a corporate space, you can only talk about certain things. But when we get to interact, like with this conversation today, Jeanette, we get to talk about anything that we want to.
Right.
And I love that. Wherever we go and flow to, we can, go down that path. And I love that creativity. And I love the possibilities.
So you don't have to be as constrained and as in an particular image. When you're an entrepreneur, you can be you. And in theory, as an employee, we can be, but it depends on the environment. In some corporate environments, you have to show up a certain way. That was one of the things that I don't do corporate well. I just don't tolerate BS and bureaucracy and nonsense. So it's a challenge for me. So now that you've started your business, and you've been doing it for about 3 years, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What's one thing you learned that you wish you knew when you started?
Ooh, which I knew when I started. That what I do and how I help people is good enough.
Okay.
Sometimes we have that doubt, like that balloon. When we have certainty, it's filled, but just one little pinprick, that one little % of doubt creates 100% uncertainty. So I wish I'd kind of embodied that sooner.
And 100% in action in many cases. So embody that it's good enough. So tell me a little bit more about what that means, because I think I know what you mean in terms of overcoming perfectionism and getting our value. But for you, what was that? What did you specifically have to get for that to land?
I think for me, what that was or is sometimes we still struggle, or I still struggle with it. I'll put it in my eye.
I've been at it 40 years, and I still go into, my shit storms every once in a while of, I shouldn't be doing this, and I got to get a new job, and I'm not good enough, and all that kind of nonsense. They're shorter now, and usually, I don't tolerate them for too long, but I still have them. Yeah, those times where it can be, I can be crying on the floor going, I don't know about why I'm not good enough, et cetera, et cetera. So tell me a little bit more about that for you.
Yes, we all have meltdowns. Yeah. It's inevitable. We're human. Yeah. And, that's why we kind of need that software update, in terms of, the AI part of it,
yeah.
Let's talk about tech, right? We I don't know where my phone is. I don't even know if it's in this room, but, we rely so much on technology these days. We need a software update. When's the last time we had that internal update? Because we update our hardware, we change our clothes, we do things externally to go with the times.
Yeah.
What are we doing to really just have that inner dialogue, that inner change?
Yeah.
And so I think that's been a big thing for us to kind of remember and to shift out of. And also to remember, hey, I have those techniques. I teach these techniques. Use it for myself too, right?
Exactly. Well, and there's a reason I have 2 coaches, and I think every coach should have at least one coach, because we can't see what's on the end of our nose. It doesn't matter. I've been teaching it for 40 years, and I'm really good at the mindset work. Doesn't mean I can always do it for myself, right? We're too close to our own stuff. It's like you can't see the label from inside the jar. So before we leave the topic of the stress, because you wrote a whole book on that, let's give us 2 or 3 stress relieving tips that are not typical, that we might not have heard before, or that everybody doesn't say. So what are a couple of quick stress relief tips that you can give our listeners?
So of course, you've heard of box breathing, the 4 in, the hold for 4 out. That's the foundation for everything. Our breath is so important. So I won't go into that because you already know it, but it's a good reminder. So we'll continue to breathe, kind of draw your awareness to that. And what happens, especially when we're in front of the computer a lot, we have that tech neck, we're leaning forward, we're kind of hunched over a little bit. And we're just, at the end of the day, it's tight, it's sore. And here's the thing, it feels like the weight of the world is on our shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 aspects of this, the physical game and the mental game. Okay. So the mental game is, what is going on? What's that weight on my shoulders? Identify it. see what that is. Now, name that. If it's, getting on your podcast, if it's, your new workshop, whatever that is for you, put that into your mind, that tension, that stress. Now draw your attention to your shoulders. Mm-hmm. There's tension there, and you don't know it sometimes, but when you go to lay in bed, it's there, isn't it? Yep. So what I want you to do is I want you to really intentionally draw your focus to their shoulders, tighten them up, bring them up to your ears, tighten, 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 tighten. Take that weight of the world and go, let it go. It's an instant shift. Mm-hmm. It's a mental shift, physical shift. And it's a great way to any time that you're feeling that to let it go. The second thing I'll teach you today is that sometimes, as we talked about earlier, we kind of stifle our voice. Yeah. Maybe it's because of who we're around. Maybe it's not the right time. Maybe it's you just didn't want to speak up in the moment. Yeah. So we'll put 2 fingers on both sides of our jaw, just around where it starts to move up. This is our masseter muscle. We're going to make little circles. Our masseter muscle is the strongest muscle in our body because we talk a lot. But it helps us to chew. It helps us to do so many different things. But when you draw attention to this and start to let this go, there's also trigger points in these 2 areas that help to release a headache. So we just let go of everything we're not saying, and we're able to open our jaws. We're able to speak our truth. So that's the second technique.
I like that.
Third, yes, is a wonderful one. The third wonderful technique is, yes, we have that tension headache. Sometimes we think too much. Yeah. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take 2 fingers, go across our temples, do little circles. We quit overthinking. What are we thinking about? What's that stress on our mind? How do we adapt to what's going on right now? What do we want to shift from overwhelm to being at ease?
I'm massaging my glasses right off my face.
Yes, there you go. Let go of that tension on our mind. So that's 3 quick and easy techniques that you can use at any given time of the day.
Thank you. That's awesome. And they're simple and they're quick. So if you didn't do that as we were talking, do it now, because, I can see you even though you're only listening to this. Okay, now let's shift a little bit and talk about AI, adaptive intelligence, and give us a definition of what that means in terms of how leaders think. So what's the difference between adaptive thinking and non-adaptive thinking, or ways of being?
Well, our nervous system runs so fast, but when we catch up, it comes out in our physical body. It comes out in the words we say. It comes out in our thoughts. But our nervous system is reacting so fast. So adapting is taking the reaction in our nervous system with whatever's happening, our external world, and shifting that very quickly. So instead of reacting, we get to respond. Okay. And when we have that plan in place, whether or not you have 10 plans, 20 plans, you can't execute those all of the time. Right. So it goes back to, what is our intention? If your intention is to be cool and calm, I'll teach you how to do that. But in that reactive place, what happens? We get elevated. Sometimes we say things that we don't want to say in the moment, but we end up saying them, and it causes friction. And so instead of causing the friction, we want to dial it back and create connection. And when we create that connection, it bonds us. It creates camaraderie. It creates us having rapport instead of having that friction. Okay. And so when we adapt in the moment, again, using our sensory intelligence, what are we feeling around us? Ooh, do I feel like that resonated? Or do I feel angry around it? Or is it something emotional? How do we connect those 2 things? And then when we can, again, respond instead of react, that's how we adapt quicker and faster.
Okay, so speaking of adaptation, one of the things that I'm because sometimes I hear my listeners in my head, and one of the things that I hear them saying is, I'm too old and set in my ways. I am who I am. And, if I could have learned how to respond instead of react, I would have already. What do you say to them?
It's a practice. Everything is a practice. When I am releasing tension, physical tension with a massage client, guess what? Our autonomic nervous system does allow us to breathe, right? It's an automatic function, just like our heartbeat, just like blinking, all of the different things. But when we breathe intentionally, because we're holding that stress that we just talked about earlier, when you would breathe intentionally, we're able to let it go, draw that attention, release it. I can help when I'm doing massage therapy to help release that tightened muscle. So for people that think, I'm too old, I've already done it, or I would have already done it, like you just asked, let's create the code, drawing intention to this code. And the code stands for contain that stress signal.
Okay.
And then observe without overriding it. Because a lot of times we want to stifle it and keep it all in. Don't override it. Let it happen. You've had so much wisdom. We're in that space where we know so much. We know what works and what doesn't work in our lives. And that's where the D comes in. Make your decision with discernment. Use that wisdom. We're not 20 anymore. I love that we're not 20 anymore because we have so much knowledge behind us.
Yeah.
And we know if we say something, what kind of reaction we're going to get from our partners, from our business associates, people in line at the grocery store, driving. We know what kind of response we will get. So that's why we decide with that discernment. And then E of code for connection, the E is engage with energy. Because if I go to you, Jeanette, and I say, you know what, we're gonna get to the next place and we're gonna adapt to the future, and I have no energy behind it, I'm not gonna be enrolled, and you're not gonna be enrolled. So whatever you decide, engage with that energetic yes. So that's the simple code that I would say you can incorporate today, even if you don't think that you can adapt.
I love that. I think that's a great tool. So the contain is to really kind of notice, but put your focus there in a way that is what you're working on right in this moment. Contain your focus and then observe what is going on there. What is really happening? What is this about? What is it trying to tell me? And then make a decision based on your discernment about what's next. What am I going to do about this? How do I work with this? What is being called for? And then engage in the solution with energy so that it's actually going to promote you into action to do something about it. I think code is a great thing to remember. So write that down, y'all, if you haven't already. And the thing with something like that, though, is these kinds of tools is they have to be in front of us for us to remember them, or we have to practice them. And often a support structure helps with that because, frankly, I won't remember code tomorrow. I might remember a couple of words, but if I see it again and again, and I practice it and I pause for a moment and I apply it, then I'm much more likely to incorporate that into my life. So what are some tips or tools that you have for kind of, how do I say this? I don't want to say cementing change. What I want to say is creating different results by virtue of having this support structure around the new thing. So what are some ways for really reinforcing or getting a change to actually land?
It's about implementation. Absolutely. And how I kind of look at it is we're a whole person, whether our wholeness is, again, personally or professionally. We still have that whole. And I break that down into 6 categories. And I call that C Fresh. Our career, our contribution, our finances, our relationships, our emotional state, our spirit, and our health. So anywhere in that 6 categories, again, easy to remember, C Fresh. You're not on plan A, you're not on plan B. We're already on plan C. So
Yep.
plan C, see fresh, and think about what element of that piece of the pie you want to work on. Implement this code. If you have to write it down, great. Just like we had to write down our ABCs and look at a board, so many times until we got it down. Make it fun.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about fun, and I love that, because when we get to have fun, we get to energize so much of what we do, because it's, I think what happens, and maybe it happens a lot in the corporate world, but it's somewhat mundane sometimes. But as an entrepreneur or leadership in self, we get to create the rules.
Right.
And when we're excited, it creates the aim for impact and the aim for fulfillment. So use that code that I just gave you to implement one thing at a time in whatever one category. Pick one category today, implement it, work with it, and then pick another category when you feel like you've mastered it, or at least implemented it well.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm also a big proponent of create structure, external structures that support you, because if we couldn't apply this stuff, we probably would have already. So get a coach, join a mastermind group, join a program. I know Sarah's got a program coming out. What's it called? What's your program called? The Aim Higher. Your group starting in March, where it's an incubator for practicing these kinds of things. Those all really help with implementation and integration of the new way of being. So let's talk a little bit more about adaptive intelligence and how to create more of it. So how do we become more adaptive? Because one of the things that I think is a myth that a lot of people think is that we either have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset, and it's just the way it is. I'm one or the other. And many people, many people that I've talked to say, well, no, I've got a fixed mindset and that's just the way it is. It doesn't change. It's like, no, it's actually a choice. And so you can choose to have a growth mindset, and having a growth mindset, by the way, is statistically shown to give you a longer, healthier life than having a fixed mindset. When we're constantly growing, learning, stimulated, have purpose, have meaning in our lives, we live longer and healthier, 8 years longer, actually, healthier lives because of that meaning and purpose. So how do we develop this growth mindset, this adaptive intelligence, this way of being that is different than other people who stress about situations and don't look at it from that flexible, adaptive perspective?
Yes, great question. Because I've been talking about stress relief for a few decades now.
Okay.
And what I get over and over, and I used to subscribe to this mindset as well, is that stress is just part of our lives. And yes, of course it is, but it's the way we deal with it. Mm-hmm. You can either let it take you over, or you can put either a plan in place, or you can, decide how to react and or respond rather than react. But what happens is we kind of get into that rut of, okay, I have this habit and this is the way I deal with it. But when we're opening up ourselves for curiosity, what else is out there? How else can I make that change? Or how do I get a different result and not do the same thing over and over, right? Because we know that definition, right? We know that that's insanity. And so when we break that cycle, and in my book, I call it the stress cycle, we can break it from the inside out. And that's the way to make lasting change. Or we can break it from something external. Something happens that's really tragic, a pandemic, a death, a changing career. That helps to break it, creates different stress, but it makes us go, okay, we've had something happen to us. And am I going to just fold up, crawl into a ball and cry and never come out of it? Or do I want to shift? Do I want to change? So it starts with that decision, going back to code, that discernment of that decision. So when you decide, that's the first thing, is making that decision. Yes, I can. And when you have that possibility, oh my goodness, then you start opening up yourself. You start opening up your entire, ability to download something else that you didn't know before, incorporate that into your body. And that's how we start to make that shift. Mm-hmm. And so there's so many things that we can do in it. And it's so exciting because we look at it as a scale, right? On the higher part of it is, how can we change? It's not just the what do they call it? It's not just the positive that's, I'm going to lose my words on this. You know how the people just talk about something positive and it's really just not, it's kind of fake, if you will.
Yeah. I call it spiritual bypass, and
it's
it's all very fluffy, positive speak, but really it's not actually landing. It's not coming from any place that's grounded and real. It's just what we think we should be saying and doing. So
yes.
That. Yep.
Yes. So when we can choose to be the positive and not just that toxic positivity, that's what I was looking for. So yes, you said it perfectly, but it's true positivity. It's true change versus the bottom of the change scale. When we're looking at the negative, looking at all the bad things, the negative that happens in our lives is information.
Yeah.
It's data. And yes, it connects to our emotions and it hurts a lot so many times, but that choice to be able to change. And sometimes we're stuck in bed. I've been guilty of it too. We all have.
Yeah.
How do you get out of bed? Like you said earlier, it goes back to our why.
Yeah.
I don't want to suffer in silence anymore, and I don't want anyone else to. So I got to get up. I need to get up. I choose to get up.
Yeah.
So that shift to I choose to, and I get to get up. Yes. And when I make that shift, that's when I know it's there.
I love it. All right. So tell us really quickly, what are some of the signs so that we can recognize stress signals? Because like you said, a lot of people think that that's just the way it is. It's a given. But we sometimes we're like the frog that gets put in the pot and turns up the water slowly. It doesn't hop out because it gets adapted to that life-threatening situation. Humans, I think, are a lot like that. We don't think we're stressed because we've got this level of comfort with stress. How do we know and how do we recognize stress signals so that we know that we actually need to do something about it?
Yes. So a stress signal is something that brings you down, as opposed to something that is tension that's put on us that helps lift us up. So even that recognition, and I wrote about this in the book that I produced, is that it's the way we communicate. And in the second book, just a quick background, my friend who was also a massage therapist, and we also studied neurolinguistics together, and she unfortunately had a miscommunication with her husband, which ended up resulting in both of them passing away in the same night. Tragic incident. And again, left 3 children behind. And so I finished producing and publishing her book, and it's called Self-Awareness in Communication. And so when we have that awareness of how we communicate, where our come from is, how we connect to others, whether it be we are external processors or we internalize, how we connect to others in the world, how we perceive information. If we have a million bits of information around us at any given time, we can only take in less than 10% of it. So what are we filtering in and what is not getting filtered in? What are we not seeing? So those are the stress signals that we start to become aware of when we have self-awareness. And so when we work on ourselves, when we start to have a great relationships with us, we're whole and we are fulfilled rather than trying to find it in someone else.
Okay. So some of what I heard in that is, one, does the energy of something take you down versus lift you up? So being aware of impact on you, whether it's a person or a situation or your own self-talk, your own things, watching your communication and how does that impact you and others, and looking at your communication for clues of what you're thinking and whether or not that might reflect stress. And then, of course, checking in with our body. You mentioned earlier, getting sick, and there's a whole field of study called psychoneuroimmunology, the connection between our mind and our body and the impact of stress on our physiology, etc. So certainly our body gives us signals all the time, right from tense shoulders to gut issues to, I know a person, I just heard a story from someone who was teaching people how to draw. And this woman literally had such strong beliefs around not being artistic that when she was in an art class, she literally lost her vision. She couldn't see because she was so convinced that she could not be artistic and draw. And so she couldn't see the thing that she was supposed to duplicate. And then as soon as she left the class, her vision came back. So our bodies are quite amazing at telling us when we have beliefs going on, when we have stress going on, when we have things that are out of alignment. And so you mentioned that the adaptive intelligence and using code to kind of tune in so that we can practice that and develop that muscle of adaptivity and being able to consciously call on it to be more proactive, not reactive leaders in whatever context. Do you have a book coming out about this one? Just because you sound like you're on a roll with books.
No, I do a book maybe every 3 years. So yes, I'm due.
All right.
But I think it's definitely important to adapt to what's going on for right now. So yes, I'm working on that book. And as you were talking about with the person with art, when we become disassociated with the things that either drive us or the things that are stopping us, yes, our bodies tell us. When we get to the root of those problems or challenges, and we kind of internalize it and we go, okay, what's going on? Where is it? I have a great meditation that I do. It's a 10-minute meditation, and it helps you really find where that tension is in your body, what's going on, how to let it go, and also how to move forward. So getting in touch with that, being connected back to your body is so important in that. And if it's okay, I'll give that away as a free gift.
Great segue. I was just going to ask you about your gift, so that's perfect timing. So that meditation is a gift that Sara is offering you. It's a 10-minute meditation, and they can access it where? How can they access it from you?
So if you go to Free Gift from Sara, my name, Sara, freegiftfromsara.com, you'll be able to download it today. And it's great for being able to have deeper sleep. It's great for a 10-minute break. It's great for a morning motivation. So it's almost exactly 10 minutes. So you can incorporate it today.
Great. This very second. There we go. Okay. And for those of you who have been listening before or don't know, we have something called the Vault. The Vault is an opportunity for you to go in and download not only Sara's gift, but all of the gifts from all of our speakers that we've had on the show over the year and two, almost, I don't know, long time. So over a year. So please go and check out the Vault, log into the Vault, and look at and go and grab the gifts that resonate with you that we're going to help you where you're at. But don't just download them on your computer and forget about them. Actually do the thing. Actually read it, actually follow through it, actually use the tool. And by all means, if it resonates with you, go and listen to the episode from that speaker and reach out to them. Their contact information is there. So use the Vault as a way for you to go and get goodies 24/7, 365 days a year, including Sara's great meditation. So speaking of getting in touch with you, what's the best way for people to connect with you?
To download that meditation. It's a win-win. Okay. You will be connected to me, and I start giving you tips through your email, and then I have links for my social media from there.
Okay, awesome. So by all means, grab that. And of course, what's your website?
My website, which is a good website to give them right now? We'll put it in the show notes.
Okay, we'll put it in the show notes. Okay, so I'm in that stage myself, and you can also go get the book, Stressed Out, and don't know what to do. So that's on your website or on Amazon or both.
This is on Barnes and Noble and Amazon.
Okay,
so
great.
You can get it either way, and it will give you some great 2-minute wins.
Okay, love it. So I appreciate you being here, Sara. Tell people just quickly what you do, so what they should reach out to you for. So what is your service that you offer or your business?
Well, that's a great thing about adapting to the everyday change. Sometimes we get stuck in what we're doing, whether it's in transition from the corporate world into your own business, whether it's in a relationship, or whether it's, having a connection to yourself. When we are able to adapt, know what's going on, that's my sweet spot, helping you to understand yourself better so that you can have that connection code to whomever you want to in life.
Love it. Okay. And you do that through one-to-one coaching currently?
Yes.
Okay.
Currently one-to-one coaching, but the Aim Higher group that we're starting next month in March is going to be our launch for our one-to-many. So if you want to be a part of that, Jeanette's going to have a link to that. But also, because you're here, I'm going to give you a special offer with that, and I'll send it to you via email when you get the web, or when you get the meditation. Just because Jeanette's so amazing with this with what she does.
Thank you. I love when my people get goodies. Okay, so thank you so much for being here, Sara, and for your passion about really supporting people in seeing things differently, in being able to step back, take a proactive versus reactive stance in life, and reduce the stress that's keeping them from moving forward. Appreciate that, and really take a look at, who do I choose to be in the world? I think it's a really important conversation for us to have with ourselves. Those of you that are in the process of reinventing yourself, please also check out the Clarity Compass workshop. It is my gift to you to, well, okay, it's not a gift, you have to pay for it, but you really don't have to pay a whole lot to get a tremendous amount of clarity about your vision. What do you want to create? Because you know what? When I ask a lot of people at this stage of life, pretty much any stage, but especially later in life, what do you want? I get the dog tilt head thing where they kind of go, I don't really know. Or pure panic. It depends, anywhere in that whole spectrum. So if that's you, come and clarify, what is your vision for your next 10, 20, 30, 40 years, y'all? So what's your vision and what's your purpose? It's not what you do. It's why we do what we do, and it's not easy to figure out on our own. So come and find out why you do what you do, and then how are you going to live into that? How are you going to monetize that? How are you going to be the both and, make a meaningful difference and a magnificent living, if that's what you choose to do? So that Clarity Compass workshop happens on in person and virtually. It's coming out soon. Look for details in the show notes, but also go to maturepreneur.world. So that's mature, as in theory we are, not always, not all of us are mature at this age, and preneur, as in part of entrepreneur.world. There'll be details for that there. And let me help you take that next step into creating your chapter the way you want, so that you can be the difference that only you can be. And please apply some of the things that Sara has wisely shared here today. Go and get that meditation, use it so that you can really support yourself in expanding both the internal game and the external game that you're playing. Thank you again, Sara, for your passion, for your smile, for your positivity, and for making this kind of idea quite accessible. Here's some simple things you can do. It's a lovely support for many, many, many people in the world. So thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you all listening. Please share, subscribe, show us some love. Appreciate it. Have a wonderful day. Remember to do your breathing. Remember to massage your jaw. Remember to do those things that support you and your temples, to do those things that support you in de-stressing. Crunch your shoulders because you've got tech neck. I like that word. And give yourself the gift of the pause that refreshes. All right. Bye, everybody. Have a great week. Thank you for listening. I'd love it if you left a comment and subscribed. And I encourage you to apply one aha from this interview right away so you can turn your wisdom into wealth and your contribution into positive change. Bye for now.